me, Fawzia Reddy, on Ramadan Radio London 87.9 FM. And we are also streaming on Facebook, ramadanradio.org. And yes, this afternoon's show, parenting show, is brought to you by the Parents Pod. And I've got Yasmin, good friend and sister, mashallah, and we both professionals in working with families and children. So yes, Yasmin, assalamu alaikum warahmatullah, welcome to the show.
Walaikum salam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for having me here, Fawzia.
No, it's my pleasure, alhamdulillah. Yes, so today's show is a very interesting one today. It's all about how do we nurture and develop maternal and paternal instincts in ourselves. And I come across a lot of people who are not aware of what they should do with their children naturally, or what they should adopt, or what's the preferred thing, and what's the fashionable thing to do. And often mums are expected to have this natural inclination to like this pull. I mean, the actual definition is, a gravitational pull a mother feels towards a child, for their welfare, for their emotional needs, for their physical needs, and it's just like unconditional. It's 24 hours a day basically. You do this, and it should just come really natural. It's as alhamdulillah, as Muslims we know that we have the fitrah, isn't it, Yasmin? So we've got some, some built in, the whole rahmah that we have. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his, infinite knowledge has bestowed upon every animal this rahmah, this one rahmah, that shapes how they connect, how they, bond with their offspring. And as human beings, alhamdulillah, we have that added dimension, because we have the aql, and we have the thing to reason and think and ponder and develop ourselves. But what's really brought me to discuss this issue today is that a lot of mums feel that they alhamdulillah, they're blessed with these children, but they do sort of feel that they're in the deep end, and they're supposed to just know everything and know that they should be connected with their child and should be at their every need, and to do it really amazingly as well, isn't it, Yasmin?
Yes, yeah, I think you're right there. I think as well, the biggest problem that we do have, we doubt our own abilities. But as you say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us so much instinct that just by trying, there is no right and wrong, as long as you are trying. But I'm sure you can really emphasize on that, especially the connection, the communication, and things like that are really important.
Yes, exactly. As well, though, Yasmin, isn't it this that I mean, we're a product of obviously the 70s, role models that like that our parents were, in our homes. We everybody has different realities, but they sort of just took on that role as being a mom, and it was the done thing, and you did it. And you as children, I think we watched, and then you're expected to do it as well, aren't you?
Yes.
But it doesn't. I think it doesn't always flow, does it? You don't just wake up the day that you find out you're having a baby, or you've had a baby, and you become this all-knowing being who can take care of the needs of a child straight away.
No, alhamdulillah, we're not expected to know everything anyway, because you just take every day as it comes. And I think as well, it depends on what sort of society you were brought up in. I know for myself, most of the kids in my neighborhood, they were all the same age. And so I didn't have much interaction with babies or toddlers or kids younger than me, not at all. But then somebody from a different society may have all different ages in their family. I know for my daughter, she was able to change nappies from, her auntie's children's and that sort of thing, which put her in better stead. But for myself, I didn't really like kids that much. I just wanted to have a career, but subhanallah, like Allah just put that love in my heart.
Okay.
And
Right.
I think just knowing that you just take every day as it comes. Yes, there will be difficult times, and you're not expected to know everything, not at all, not in any role in the world, not at all.
Yeah. But it's really funny you just said that, because I'm just thinking the listeners are probably thinking, oh, like here's this sister or this woman, and she did, it's shocking to some cultures. It's like, why are you okay? Why is it you don't have the skills, or you don't want to be a mum, when it's seen as a negative thing. But more than anything, I think it's really honest with being honest with ourselves when we say, actually, I'm a bit clueless when it comes to, I don't know, this age group, or I don't know anything about feeding a toddler, or or even, like, I don't know how to deal with temper tantrums. I haven't got a clue. And we did have those times, didn't we? Remember, Yasmin, we what did we do? We picked up a book.
Yes, definitely. I still remember those one-liners from, different books I read that were just so amazing, really helped me so much with my mothering skills.
Mm.
Absolutely. And, I do say that, I didn't really want kids, but, taking the career route, I had my first child when I was 27. And just taking the
Right.
career route, it did really help me with my time management skills, communication skills, interacting with different people, especially stress skills, how to deal with stress. So I did find that everything that I'd learned up until the point I'd had a baby, I really needed those skills. And then the rest, really was about grabbing a book and having a really good support system. And you were always there for me. We were there for each other,
Yes, we
alhamdulillah,
were. Alhamdulillah.
which is
Alhamdulillah.
really important.
Yeah.
Really, really
But
important to have the support.
yeah, taking you back a bit, Yasmin, though, what did, because I just keep thinking, isn't it also about the fact that you've got positive role models within your environment, and we are always watching our own parents, how they parent, what they do, our connection with our moms. Um, was it so much? Did you learn so much from your own mum, being sort of a 27-year-old, that you thought, right, okay, I can put some things into practice? Or what was your sort of um, tool or bag of ideas or skills from your family?
Yes, I think sort of looking back, I think some things were definitely how I didn't want to parent, especially
Mm-hmm.
the communication. Especially, I just felt that my mum was always busy and I couldn't really sort of talk to her. I didn't want to burden her, which was not true. That's just how I perceived the situation. But I always said to myself, okay, when I have my kids, that's something I'm really going to try to make an effort with, is communicating, like looking in
Right.
their eyes. How do you feel? How was your
Mm-hmm.
day? What could you have done better? Those sort of things. So yeah, and I think my mum, she was always very kind, always made sure, that we were very clean, that there was always food on the table, just doing those sort of basic things, but as well having
Mm.
that special time as well, one on one with each of
Yes.
us, and having their family time. We didn't grow up with much money. And we used to go on
Yes.
picnics, and I just remember so many wonderful picnics. You just basically put your lunch in a bag and go somewhere where there's a
Yeah.
stream, or we always had to step over the cow pats. Um, but I
Mm-hmm.
think I think the pressure today really is, we didn't have so much pressure then, Fuzia, of how everybody else is doing it. You really
Right.
did sort of
Right.
trust your instincts, and I think
Mm.
it's huge these days. It's just looking on the
Yeah.
internet and seeing like how other people are doing things. I still have one friend, mashallah, she's a very lovely sister, but she's always doubting her motherly skills. And when, we used to all get together and have a big coffee morning or something, she always used to sort of walk away absolutely depleted, because she's like, oh, everybody else is doing so much with their kids. And I say, yeah,
Right.
but your kids are great as well. Stop,
Yeah. There's
just
no
stop
comparison. Yeah.
underestimating your
Mm.
own motherly skills. I truly believe that, we have to have the confidence. We have to say to ourselves, okay, I'm not perfect, but this is right and that's right. And what I'm doing is right.
Yes, exactly. I think the other thing is this, Yasmin, is that bringing the discussion a little bit more forward now. I mean, like you've touched on a really important point where you're saying that there was this push for mothers, and they were sort of urged to trust their instincts over their advice of professionals, and shun developments such as sleep training and these sort of things in those early days, because it was that you know what to do, you know best. And I think now we've sort of come on from that somewhat, is that the new sort of millennial mum uh, is your sort of new age mum who's a product of the internet age, who's got the telephone and the iPad and the laptop and the social media accounts, and and juggling that, which sometimes it can take 4, 5, 6 hours of your day, with caring for a baby who needs or 2 or 3 children at the varying ages who need your attention, is a big thing to juggle. And from what I'm listening to and hearing, is that these new millennial mums are struggling to find the balance between being devoted to their children and understanding that they are nurturing and developing a new human being, which needs time, effort, sacrifice. It needs your total attention, frankly. Um, and they're struggling with, and it's, even our Muslim sisters, where as Muslims predominantly, we're very, we're raised very sort of family orientated. There's a big connection with seeing family, extended family, being there for one another, supporting each other, etc. But as we've gone into this new millennial stage of life, young people are growing up, or now you've got adults who are having their children, who are used to having me time, and me time is more valuable and highly rewarding for them than anything else. And so one of the key things that I think we need to start exploring is that within their reality of being caught up, or needing, I should say, the time on social media, and needing that friendship on social media, because the phone has become a world in its own. That's people's whole planet now. You could be sitting in a room of 10 people, and they're all on their phones, in their own little worlds. And sometimes it can look like you're shutting out your children. And we need to be really careful as moms, that we don't fall prey to that, because children then start to develop insecure attachments, where they are approaching their mum. She's busy with some engaging activity on the phone or a laptop or iPad or whatever it is, and the children is just a nod on, or a tap on their head, and shunning them to go off. And the child then, when they keep doing that repeatedly, they're coming up against this sort of brick wall, or even like this sort of pushback. They start to develop insecure attachments, and that's when they grow up to become people with childhood issues, find it difficult to make relationships, and feel incomplete in themselves, and they have a void that they carry around with them. And this is something that happens not intentionally. Yasmin, I'm not saying that the 70s, 80s mums were the best mums, and now we've got the mums of this new age, and they've got all these drawbacks. But I'm actually saying that this is a reality of what's happening, and for us to be able to really not allow for this to become a slippery slope that we all go into, it's about, first and foremost, recognizing our own habits, and who we are in ourselves, and especially when I think motherhood comes as a surprise, I should say, because Allah is the best of planners, isn't it? I mean, mashallah, of course, when we marry, this is inevitable that we are hoping to, inshallah, have children. But sometimes people are thinking, well, maybe 2-3 years down the line. Some people are thinking, straight away. Allah is the best of planners. Like you said, you yourself, you weren't necessarily got married. But it is key that I think one of the first things I would say that everybody, as new mothers need to do is really understand yourself and your own character, your habits, your inclinations, and understand how that's going to change when a child comes into the dimension, and be prepared for that change. It doesn't mean you lose yourself. I'm not saying that you stop being who you are and stop having the recreational things that you do on social media, whether it be listening to podcasts or listening to an audiobook, or these things, but it does mean that you're prepared to set aside these things depending on the phase of motherhood that you're in. And we know, isn't it, Yasmin, that children from different milestones need different amounts of care. So my first advice would be, take on motherhood in your reality. So if you know that right now, before you have a baby, you're spending 2 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours on social media or on the phone, or or things that you like to do as recreation, then put that into in front of yourself and think, right, okay, when I have a baby, some of this is going to have to change, and maybe say to yourself, well, no, discuss it with your husband, think about how is it that you can both, and I think this is for brothers as well, how you can both set aside time where you do have that me time. Because I have realized that a lot of the new millennial parents, where you've got, traditionally it's like free time is something that you earn, and there's also time, 5 before 5. We know that to take advantage of free time before you don't have it, because certain times in our lives we won't have free time for ourselves. But I think that with the new generation, there's this idea that they need it for their sanity, whereas we would probably go and grab a book, Yasmin, or sit and, I don't know, do some knitting or whatever it is that you, as a pastime, we'd have pastimes. The new sort of millennial parents are from the idea that, no, I need that time with my phone, and like that switch off from everything, to be sane, to function, and to carry on throughout the rest of the day. Otherwise they feel like it's too monotonous, and it's too jarring, it's too much responsibility, and they can't cope. And I think secondly, it's also about educating yourself. If you're wanting to find out about what parenting is, how to be a good Muslim mother, how to develop relationships with your children, with your, and this is of all ages, it's so important to either look into some good books, listen to some parenting podcasts, maybe even join a parenting course to prepare yourself. Because I think, like we would anything else that we're new to, go into it thinking, right, I need to buy a guide, I need to look into how I'm going to do this. Likewise, we need to do that for being a good mum. And also, one of the first places that you'd go to is look at the mothers of the prophets, from the Quran. How were they? What did they, look at the connections they had. How did they, deal with the challenges of their time and continue to serve their families? Likewise in the Sahaba, and even if you look at the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there were very key maternal figures in his life, that we can learn from, that we can see how devoted were they, and the reward of being a devoted mother. And like I said, it doesn't mean that you forget yourself. And also for us as Muslims, we have a different perspective on motherhood, isn't it, Yasmin? It's not the modern British or Eurocentric views of parenting. we have a very grassroots, submission-led view of what it means to embrace, being a mother, and that the mother is the first madrasa.
Yes, because the mother is the mother of the society, isn't it? And I think that's really important. Once we've sort of, I don't know how once we've sort of finished with our kids or whatever, we're sending them out to the big wide world to deal with people and situations, and to be productive Muslims that are very kind and compassionate and generous. These are the sort of children we need to be bringing up, and we need the knowledge, like you say, of the seerah, and
Yes.
as well about just prioritizing our time, because it is a big commitment, it's a big responsibility, and I think it should be taken very seriously.
Yes.
And I think as well something that maybe you could touch on further, Fuzia, is about having that sort of instant gratification these days, which is a sort of side effect, isn't it, of being a millennium, and
Yes.
and how that connects with being a mother.
Yes, I think what it is mean is that part of it's also that yes, but I'll talk about instant gratification in a minute, but I think it's also to do with the fact that a lot of younger mothers, it's the idea that they themselves haven't embraced that whole adulthood, and they need to develop, they're no longer children. They are now adults. They are now responsible for another life, another being, and it's important that we embrace adulthood. And I think that a lot of the traits of some of the younger moms is that they are not quite ready for adulthood in some respects, and now they've got this baby. Okay, and these are some of the problems that I see, and they're actually wanting to still be carefree and not have responsibility, and taking, now they've got this child, it's like, oh gosh, like, how am I going to do this and feed my own needs? So I think one of the second piece of advice I would definitely give is that understand that we're accountable, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't give any responsibility, or it doesn't burden a person more than they can bear. That Surah Al-Baqarah says. So you've been given this, take it on holistically, take it on wholeheartedly, embrace it, and really embrace that station of a mother that Allah's given us. And we know the prominent hadith about the mother, who should I give my care and love to, and it is a very valuable station to have, and I would definitely advise that don't belittle your role, and see this as a new development in yourself, a new sense of self-development, and like a growth that will really help you to emerge as a stronger, more confident adult, but also a lot more capable one. I think with the thing is, with instant gratification, children developing the shakhsiyah of a child, nurturing a new being, you're not going to see instant gratification in that area, because with with children and child development and milestones, children don't always show you that they're grateful for what you've done until they're much older, when they and you see on them yourself as well. It's not necessarily they need to tell you, but sometimes you see it on them and you think, I was really glad I persevered with that, because now they're able to do this and this and this, or they're much more thought out. So I think instant gratification as a parent is somewhat of a unfound concept, and if this is a challenge for some parents, because they've grown up with having their needs met straight away, they don't have the patience sometimes, but I would say that enjoy being a parent. The third tip would be enjoy being a mother, um, and understand how crucial it is, and how rewarding it is when you see your child learning new things, developing their social and emotional needs, um, for them to be confident people, confident little children, whether if it's with dropping them off at the nursery and hearing that they are interacting with others really, really well, and that they've got a good understanding and about the world around them, that they're making effective relationships. This is a sign of your parenting. This is why it is rewarding to input into your children, to give them your hikmah, your patience, your advice, and holding their hand through different situations. And they will be the proof of your parenting. They ultimately will become confident people, because you put the time in and you put the effort in. But also, I mean, I think the fourth tip that I would give is that we're not saying that this is the only way that you're defined. Okay, you're not just a parent. You've got other roles as well, but you're also, you're a servant of Allah who's also developing alongside your children, growing up and becoming well-rounded Muslims, inshallah. You're also developing, and you've got your own personal challenges, and you're still who you are. You haven't fused into all the other members of the family. I think mothers, sometimes what happens is that they sometimes lose themselves. They feel their only role is just that mum role, and when they're not doing that, they're nothing. And this can be a challenge, isn't it, Yasmin? We sometimes meet people that when they get to a certain age, start to feel like they've got no use anymore, and they sort of don't know how to grow themselves whilst they're parenting their children.
Yes, and I think it's really connected, that if you do, you are bringing up your children, and you're sacrificing, you're striving, but you do need to have that time to yourself. You do need to keep some sort of hobby. It really is about creating the balance, because then when they're not around, like, you have things to do. Then you're not just left standing in this empty space, this void, where you just think, oh, I have the support, be support for other mums, because you'll have experience and knowledge and wisdom. So it is really important as well to support other younger mums. But yeah, it's about creating balance. And I love your tip 3, honestly, Fazia, about really enjoying your children.
Yes.
Instead of being on the phone, like, there's so much stuff you can do with your kids. I just loved it, just doing the craft work, playing football with them.
Absolutely.
Pretending to do karate, which I'd never did in my life, whatever. But yeah, just finding different things that are going to make you happy, but integrate them with bringing up your children, and just having a wonderful time with your children, because they will never forget, and they know when you're happy, they know when they're being ignored, they know that they feel rejection.
Yes.
And then I've been in supermarkets before, and I've seen a mum actually holding her phone while the kid. Now, you need to be talking to your kid at that time. Oh, what shopping do we need? What should we cook? Oh, look at all those different colors. Or what section are we in now? The communication is really, really important, because with the phone, there is no communicating.
Well, this is it, Yasmin, isn't it? I mean, you've raised a really important point there, because I have a pet hate, actually. And I can't stand this, is that when mums have got their earphones stuck in, and like I said last week, to me it's like having somebody sit in the same room as you and they put their fingers in their ears. That's like saying, I'm not interested in you, I don't want to talk to you, I'm really bothered that you're in the same room as me, I don't have time for you. It's sending a lot of negative messages. And like you said, moms are sometimes in need of that self-care, and I understand that completely. And I would say definitely have something that you enjoy to do, that makes you feel rejuvenated, or I mean, happy to be with the children. Because the worst thing is that you're hating it, and then and you don't have any type of self, sort of, if you like, preservation or gratification. But I think that the key thing is, like you said, is look at your children when they want to talk to you. Explain, oh, I'm just a bit busy right now. Can I finish this task and then I'll be with you? Or, okay, children, I'm going to be doing this for 20 minutes. I've set you this task to do, or you've got this box of toys, or you've got these craft things that you can do, and I'm just going to be 20 minutes doing this, but I'll be back. So I think it's really key that talk. I think my where are we? I think we're at the fourth tip, is talk to your children. Make eye contact, show them that they matter to you, and give them a big picture of what's going on that day or that week. So they're aware that, oh, okay, that's going to happen, and maybe mum is going to be busy for that day, or that morning, such and such a thing is going on, so that they're aware of what the plans are, and they're not left guessing, or just being, well, like you said, pulled here, taken there, tagging along, whilst you're doing shopping, whilst you're just sorting out your things, and that child is just, sort of somebody just trudging along with you wherever you go, and they're not aware of what's going on. I think the fifth point, that a tip that I would give, is that try to take on the role of, like, part nutritionist, and part social and emotional developer, and part counselor, and part psychologist. You've got to sort of open the door to you learning new things with your children's development. And like you said, Yasmin, that you didn't particularly know masses about motherhood or parenting, and it was not something that you were thinking, right, I'm like going into this wholeheartedly. You learn along the way, isn't it? We all do, because it's not necessary to parent your children the way you were parented as well. So as a new mum, or a mum of, in the millennial age, you may think that you don't have certain skills, but have that can do attitude, that, okay, I don't know this, but I know this person, and I know that person, and I know that person, and I could possibly ask them, inshallah ta'ala. And I think the sixth tip would be, make sure that you do have some, like, group or face-to-face meet up, whether it's at the park and the children are playing, like you said, Yasmin, or whether you've ever just taken their picnic along to a local green area. And there's lots of green areas, mashallah, in and around where we live. It doesn't need to be anything fancy, but making sure that you've got like-minded mums or other mums who can share your challenges, because that can make you feel a little bit normal and human, isn't it?
Yes, definitely, because it is a challenge. It really is. Yes, but it's a very rewarding challenge. It's very rewarding. And we mustn't forget as well the rewards that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us. Even like every, when you're breastfeeding, every suck the baby takes is written down as a good deed for you. Your sleepless nights is written down as a good deed for you. Just feeding your child, caring for them. There's so much reward in it. It's not that we have to be self-sacrificing, but remember the rewards, because you're not alone. You're never alone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you. He knows what you're going through, and just take one step at a time. Again, like we were saying last week, like, reflection is really important.
Yes, and absolutely.
And just like you're saying, it's a sunnah as well to ask the people with knowledge.
Yep.
We don't, and it's very detrimental, as mums, in yourself and for your children and your relationships, to struggle. You don't need to struggle, and I think this is really important. Just ask somebody for advice, and we don't have to take on everybody's advice. We just take everything with a pinch of salt, because not everything will suit everybody. But just take it with a pinch of salt. Know that you're not on your own, and know that parenting, it is difficult, but you really must try to enjoy it. Definitely.
Yes. Yeah. I think this is key, that we don't need to isolate ourselves, and it also shouldn't be that it's a negative thing to ask somebody for their advice, or even that it makes us less competent. I actually think it takes a lot of courage to say that actually I'm struggling with this, and if you're able, have a weekly meetup, something that you do regularly, okay, and that takes the pressure off, something to look forward to. This it could be that one of the sisters in the group is good at organizing things, and you might decide, okay, right, why don't we take turns to organize little activities when we meet up? So it becomes more of a hands-on session as well, but it's also an enjoyment for you as mums, because I think that isolating yourself is one of the worst things, and especially now because of COVID, I think we've seen that people and especially mums have found it really, really difficult, struggling at home, where they haven't been able to go to the park, and they've not been able to take their children to an open space where they can just sort of relax and breathe and just take in the environment. But you're not expected to do this role by yourself, and if you haven't got a close family, then reach out to people who can give you sound advice, but also that are not going to have all the answers necessarily, but you can bounce ideas off of them. I think that we sometimes learn through other people's mistakes or through other people's discussions, because then it makes us reflect, isn't it? It makes us think, okay, that's a good point, actually, I didn't see it like that before. Maybe that's a mistake I've been making, or that's something that I should be careful that I don't do. But even motherliness, the hugging, the kissing, it doesn't always come easy to everybody, Yasmin. It depends if you've been nurtured like that, and that whole being able to understand a look in a face, or a glance, and you think, some people are really intuitive, like they get all this, like a child's come in and they've got a little sort of slump in their mannerism, or like the shoulders are a bit dropped, and you think, maybe they'd have had a bad day. But other mums are like, oh, come in, okay, put your things away, okay, you got this to do. That they don't see that. So I think it's being present with your child, and this sounds a bit analytical, but just observing them. Sometimes, I mean, I've said to dads who've come to me and said, so I don't know what to do at home, the children not listening and we're struggling, and I said to the brother, you know what, just spend one day observing, don't talk, get up in the morning and just watch what goes on in your house, smile, connect, obviously be present, otherwise they'll be like, something's wrong with it, the dad. But just observe what's going on in your house, what are the routines, who's doing what, how are what are the conversations, but also what can you see, what can you smell, what can you taste, what's happening in your environment, and take notes if you have to understand where everybody's at, where your wife may be at, what's happening with each of the children, how do we now connect with them, and what's the reality of our situation, because sometimes it can be that we're caught up in our 9-to-5s, we're caught up in our lists and tasks, and alongside it, the children are in need of support, whether it be emotional, physical, spiritual. Because even spiritually, we need to, remember that it's also our role to make sure that we are looking at our children, thinking like, okay, how is their shakhsiyah developing? What is it that they're struggling with their nafs? How do I help them? how if they're in their teens, how to have that discussion and say, I noticed that you're struggling with this. I was wondering, how do you feel when that happened? Did you ever think to try this? So to have these conversations, and I think, you know, as a parent, it's not supposed to come as, as naturally as we think it should. Because I think we sometimes tell ourselves, oh, I'm a bad parent, or I'm a bad mother or father, because it doesn't, so and so doing it like this, and I'm not out at 7 a.m. on my bikes and riding through the park because just I like to sleep in a bit. That doesn't make you a bad parent. It just means you need to find your way of engaging with your children. And I think the key aspect is about knowing that you're on a journey, but embracing that journey. And parenting, it carries on through the stage of marriage, and then you still advise even when they get older and they have their children, and isn't it, Yasmin? They still need you. They still need your hikmah and your life experience.
Yeah, and the support.
Yeah. So I think I to sum up today's program, I think it's really, really key that we take on parenthood as a vocation, but also as a honorable pathway to gaining Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's pleasure, and to understand that we're going to sometimes make mistakes, and I think we should be open about that and say to them, yes, that share that with your children, and say, yeah, that was a particularly difficult time, and I had to drop you off here, or had to leave you with this auntie, but but at least you were safe, and it was, be open. Don't feel that you need to beat yourself up about the fact that things didn't go the way you wanted, maybe, but also don't be frightened of learning and relearning new ways to be a successful parent, to be better at what you do, and may Allah make everybody's path easy towards parenting and parenthood. And I certainly think that we're on a learning curve, especially in the era of sort of the electronic age of raising children, and children having access to gadgets, and that's a completely different discussion, like what parents will allow, what different parents allow their children to do, and it can also be that sometimes that's the easy thing to do, is hand them an iPad and say, off you go. And this is something that I think I'd like to devote a whole program to on another occasion. But with all of the dimensions that we have, and the growing challenges of the environments that we live in, I think parenthood is a constant cycle, which we revisit and we reevaluate, and we shouldn't feel that we are in any way not equipped, because we do have the natural fitra, and we when a baby cries, I'm yet to see in one room where all the adults are like, oh dear, what's going on, that's part of our instinct, and you just grow that. Some people have 20% of that instinct, other people have 50%, somebody else may have 70, to start off with, but it's fine wherever you're at in the scale of things. You just grow it from there, and there's no judgments, inshallah ta'ala. And I don't know, Yasmin, if you've yourself, now, I mean, that we're both grandmothers, how have you been able to bring in your experiences as a parent and into being a grandmother now. It's a different dimension now, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's definitely a different dimension. And I think, being a grandparent is just excellent. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, because you're not so emotionally involved. You could just take all the nice bits. But again, like coming back to, having like maternal instincts, even with our grandchildren, how do they see us? They still see us as, a maternal figure. So we've still got to be, making sure that we're, fully engaged with them, present
Yes.
with them, and, loving them as well.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. They say
And
love is the
discipline. Yeah. I always say just the best thing really was if you could just keep the love and the discipline on a balance,
yes.
then you're gonna win. It's like it's a no gamer like that. Just the love and the discipline on the balance, and enjoy it. Yes,
Yes.
and it is like you said, Fawzia, it really is a work in progress. It really
Yes.
is. But the important thing is to reflect, and is to be present with your children and let them know that you do value them. Otherwise, there's so many repercussions in the future of them feeling unworthy, and they'll just go and find that love somewhere else.
Yeah, I was just about to say love is the drug that we need. And this is the thing, is that if you think about the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, everywhere he went, because I was really looking into this, and I was thinking, if anybody was going to grow up insecure, it would be him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and because I was thinking, his father passed away before he was born, his mother passed away when he was 7. He then was raised, he went and spent time with Halima Sa'diya. He then went to his grandparents, and then he went to his uncle, and every time he went to one place, something negative happened as well. And he could have been thinking, well, I'm this bad penny, everybody's dying around me, I'm just being shoved from pillar to post. And so I was thinking, how come? What was that? And as I researched more and read, everywhere he went, they cherished him, they loved him so much, and that was the thing that kept him, and of course by the will and plan of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, just being positive, I guess, because everybody just loved him, and love is the drug that we need, so children need to feel that they're being cherished, and everybody, of course the extended family can do that. I am a firm believer that parents' roles shouldn't be taken over by grandparents. As much as I absolutely love my grandchildren, and we do, don't we, Yasmin? But we should step back and we should let them parent. We've done our parenting, and we should allow them now to come into their own and become adults and take on those responsibilities. Yes, support, advise, cajole, gift a book, send them a podcast to listen to, or a good talk. Do all of that, but don't take over. Don't become the parent second time around. But also don't be mindful that because your millennial adult is now become a parent, and they're so used to you being always in the wings and supporting and helping, that they don't just quietly hand over their child to you when they feel like going off and having their free time, because that's not the reality of them embracing their role. More than anything else, I think it's important that you carve out certain things that you do, and your certain aspects of grandparenting, if you like, that you're involved in, but they should always be a very firm understanding that the permissions need to be sought from the parents, that they say what happens. Not that you can't, as a grandparent, take lead in certain things, you can, but I think it's really important that we don't undermine the role of the actual parents, and sometimes as a grandparent it happens, and it's easily done. And I think that that way, there are the subtle lines that we draw around relationships, and everybody knows their remit, everybody knows their accountability, because ultimately it is to do with that, isn't it? On the day of Qiyamah, it will be the parents that are going to be asked about their children, and they're accountable for what happens to them, and for the permissions they gave and what they allowed, and what tarbiyah they did for their children. So I think it's important that we remind our new parents and young adults that this is their remit, and that there is accountability attached to it, and that they should embrace it. And if that responsibility is being given to them by Allah, then surely they can cope with it, and just rise to the challenge. We must build them to have that resilience. Of course you can do this. Bismillah. Yes, it's difficult. That's the juhd. That's what it is. But you are able to do it, mashallah, tabarakallah, and this is how. And then give them that space to evolve into themselves, and find their own way. And inshallah, if you've done your job well, then they'll come up trumps, inshallah. They'll be successful at it. But that doesn't mean there won't be any tests. Success doesn't mean it's all going to be perfect. Just means that you're going to embrace the amana. And that's what children are, isn't it? But Yasmin, the hour's flown by. Jazakallah khairan for joining me in this really, really valuable discussion. I've certainly really enjoyed your company, but also enjoyed touching upon this point, because I think that is so key to raising the next generation of Muslims. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah in our future generations and guide them on the straight path. But Jazakallah khairan to all the listeners. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.